So, with me today, I have Mary and Tom Poppendieck. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's also a pleasure to have you in the Leading Complexity program. For those that have not met you before, could you quickly introduce yourself?
So we're Mary and Tom Poppendieck, and we are authors of 4 books on software development and managing software development, bringing lean concepts into the whole process of managing software development. Before that, we had many decades of experience actually writing software and managing software.
Yes, and for those that have not read your books, I can highly recommend them. I think they are really good, and it's been very much in a good way introducing me to the topic of lean, especially for software development. And so I really like your books. So thank you very much for writing them. I must stop there.
Thank you. We enjoyed it.
That's great. So going to the topic of complexity, why should leaders care about complexity?
Well, if you think about complexity, it's a silent killer. Okay, it's going to kill profits and it's going to kill growth. You think about it like cholesterol. Okay, it clogs up the flow of money in your business and slows everything down. And also, like cholesterol, you don't know you have it until you look for it. There's a couple of kinds of complexity. Good complexity, that's stuff customers is willing to pay for. That's basically your differentiation. And then there's bad complexity. That's complexity that you have that you don't need to because customers don't want to pay for it. And basically, it's the root cause of your slow processes.
That's interesting. What would you say that are the biggest challenges for leaders facing complexity?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to find the cause and then to look for the solution. So if you look at the cause, I'm going to point out 2 causes. One is additional offerings than you need to have. Hewlett-Packard had all of these printers and they had a completely different software program for every single printer driver until they unified and had a single one that could be modified across. It saved them enormous amounts of money to do the simplification. So lots of offerings mean lots of setup time, lots of learning curves, lots of opportunity for mistakes, lots of scheduling and tracking overhead, basically huge amounts of increase in necessary communication and in support costs. The other cause that I'm going to talk about, there are probably more, but the other cause, and I think that the one that I really want to focus on, is when your demand exceeds your supply. So you have more demand than you can possibly handle. As I've run into IT departments, that almost all have that. And it's sort of like you open up the doors and work comes flooding in and it doesn't go out as fast. And all of that work sloshing around is grabbing people's attention and slowing everything down. And it doesn't need to be there. If you would just let it in at the same rate that you let it out, then you wouldn't have all that extra junk sloshing around. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't do work any faster than you're doing it. But when you allow it there, your queues get longer. You don't have enough workers to handle it and you can't hire them. You have customers that are unhappy because they think you're working on their thing you said you were, but you aren't because you can't. You have to spend time prioritizing stuff. You do multitasking. People start expediting special things through your process. You have to start something and then you stop it and then you start it over here and you got to relearn everything you knew before you get started again, and you're promoting burnout. So that's why demand exceeding capacity is really bad for you.
Yeah, I can really see that. And it's an interesting topic. The question is, do you have any key message for the leaders navigating in this complexity?
Yep, I do. One is, the first thing to do is find the complexity and eliminate the stuff that customers aren't interested in. That's just your problem. It's not theirs. And the other stuff is, if it has to be complex because customers want it, you need to exploit it. You need to figure out how to make that your key sort of selling point. And then when you do offer complexity, you have to minimize the cost. And I'll get into that in a minute, I think, in your next question.
Yes, because my next question is, of course, besides being inspired, which I think everyone who sees this video will understand, that you will bring from your session, but what more will they bring?
We're going to focus on the cost of complexity that comes from having more demand than you have supply, as opposed to having extra offerings. And in the area of having too much demand, if that's your problem, we have 3 fundamental concepts for you to focus on that I guarantee you will help you get over that problem. And one is to focus first and foremost on customer outcomes, not on something somebody else says, not on profits even, but on the outcomes of your customers. And the second is to create a steady flow of work that's even and basically very methodical and steady and flat. And the third thing is to do one thing at a time. And I'm going to go into the details of why these things are going to be very effective for you and how you go about doing it.
I can see that it will be a great session, that is for sure. So thank you very much for having this call, and really looking forward to listening to you at your session.
Great. I'm looking forward to having it. Let's see.
Great. Thank you.